My parents broke up when I was a few weeks old. They were never married and they were like 19 or 20 when they had me, so pretty young. They didn't get along so well, but they could be sort of civil to each other. It really depends on what was going on, I think, because sometimes they stayed away from each other. When I was 6, my dad met my stepmother, and they got married by the time I was 7. My mom and stepmother did not get along at all. I remember feeling the tension between them. I remember hearing my stepmother grumble to dad about mom if I had to go to their house instead of home with mom after they had all been in the same place. It was extra bad if they all showed up to my dance recitals. My stepmother wanted to be the one doing some of the dance stuff. She used to tell my dad she didn't think she'd have much in common with a young boy, but dance could be our thing, and mom was hogging it by always being there. Mom was the person who signed me up for dance. Dad wasn't on board with that. He's a bit too macho dude for that. My mom got sick when I was 8, and she died when I was 10. The worst part of that time was when she got too sick to take care of me, and I had to live with my dad all the time. I still saw my mom, but it wasn't the same. Before she died, she wrote me a letter and told me to read it whenever I needed to feel close to her. She said she put all her love into that letter. She also left me cards for milestones. My mom's original letter made my stepmother so angry, though. I never called my stepmother mom or anything. I never call her my parent either. I know she technically is, but I always disliked the idea of her being called that because she hated mom so much and felt like mom needed to step back from stuff to let her take over them, like dance. My stepmother is pissed that my mom never mentioned her in the letter and that mom never asked me to let her stepmother in. She felt like mom put up a final wall between us and made sure she would always be the outsider in my eyes, and I would always long for my mom and reject her as a mother figure. Our relationship is really tense while things with my dad are better than they were when I was younger. He got softer, so he said the three of us should go to therapy together to figure stuff out. After 2 months of therapy, my stepmother wants the letter brought into sessions, and the counselor feels like that's a good idea and we should discuss the content of it since it's such a point of tension. But I don't want my stepmother anywhere near it. She's poison when it comes to my mom, and I don't want her to taint it. The counselor told me it would only benefit us all. My stepmother got mad and said even a piece of paper is more important to me than she is. We had 2 sessions since, and I did not bring it. This made my stepmother's anger worse. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, not even close. This letter is just a physical manifestation of your stepmother's perceived inferiority complex. She's being needlessly competitive over the role of a maternal figure when she could have created her own role for herself in your life had she not been a brat about it all. If the counselor brings it up again, I would simply state that you do not wish to dissect the words of your mother which bring you comfort. You don't want the letter to become something negative in your memories with your mom. And I would throw the tiniest bone to your dad's wife by saying, you are asking her to respect that. And it would mean a lot to you if she could understand that this letter is not a way to spite her, but to comfort you. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Time to drop the truth on her in therapy. Time to tell her, since the moment we met, you have talked about my mom in the most disgusting way. I'm not sure why you think saying disparaging things about her will make me like you, love you, or see you as anything other than my dad's wife. If someone talked about your mom or someone else important to her, like you talk about my mom, you wouldn't like, love, or see them as a parent. You are the reason we do not have a bond. That letter is personal, and I am not sharing it with you. Dad, you should have stopped her from talking badly about mom years ago for my sake, for my mental health. Keep that letter safe. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. So after the last update, things have gotten even more complicated. My dad, stepmother, and I continued with therapy, but the tension around my mom's letter just kept growing. My stepmother was insistent that we bring it into the sessions, and the counselor kept pushing for it too. I felt cornered and didn't know what to do. I finally decided to bring the letter to the next session, hoping it might help ease some of the tension. When I brought the letter, my stepmother's reaction was immediate. She grabbed it from my hands before I could even sit down. The counselor tried to mediate, but my stepmother was already reading it out loud. The letter was full of my mom's love and memories, and it was clear she wanted me to hold on to those moments. My stepmother's face twisted with anger as she read it. She threw the letter on the table and stormed out of the room, saying she couldn't compete with a ghost. After that session, things at home got worse. My stepmother barely spoke to me or my dad. She started spending more time out of the house, and when she was home, she was cold and distant. My dad tried to talk to her, but she shut him down every time. I felt guilty for bringing the letter, but I also felt like it was something I needed to do for myself. One night, my dad sat me down and told me he was worried about my stepmother. He said she had been talking about leaving and that he didn't know how to fix things. I could see the pain in his eyes, and it broke my heart. I didn't want to be the cause of their problems, but I also didn't want to let go of my mom's memory. A few weeks later, my stepmother dropped a bomb. She told my dad she was moving out and needed some space to think. She said she couldn't handle the constant reminder of my mom and that she felt like she was always in second place. My dad was devastated, and I felt like my world was falling apart again. With my stepmother gone, my dad and I tried to pick up the pieces. We continued with therapy, but it was hard without her there. My dad became more withdrawn, and I could see the strain it was putting on him. He started working longer hours and spending less time at home. I felt like I was losing him too. One day, I found my dad sitting in the living room, staring at a photo of my mom. He looked so lost and broken. I sat down next to him, and we talked about everything that had happened. He told me he felt like he had failed both my mom and my stepmother. He said he didn't know how to move forward and that he was scared of losing me too. I tried to reassure him, but I was struggling with my own feelings. I missed my mom more than ever, and I felt guilty for causing so much pain. I started to withdraw too, spending more time in my room and avoiding my dad. Our relationship was falling apart, and I didn't know how to fix it. In the midst of all this, I found out that my stepmother had started seeing someone else. My dad was crushed when he found out, and it felt like the final blow. He became even more distant, and I felt like I was losing him completely. I didn't know how to help him, and I felt so alone. One night, I decided to read my mom's letter again. I hoped it would bring me some comfort, but instead, it made me feel even more lost. I realized that I had been holding onto the past so tightly that I was pushing everyone away. I didn't know how to let go, but I knew I needed to try. I talked to my dad about how I was feeling, and we decided to take a break from therapy. We needed to focus on rebuilding our relationship and finding a way to move forward. It wasn't easy, but we started spending more time together and trying to support each other. As we worked on our relationship, I started to see my dad in a new light. He was struggling just as much as I was, and he needed my support too. We began to open up to each other more, and it felt like we were finally starting to heal. But then my stepmother came back into the picture. She showed up at our house one day, saying she wanted to talk. My dad and I were both hesitant, but we agreed to hear her out. She apologized for leaving and said she wanted to try and make things work. My dad was torn, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. We decided to give it a try, but things were never the same. The trust was broken, and the tension was always there. My stepmother tried to be more involved, but it felt forced and awkward. My dad and I continued to struggle with our own issues, and it felt like we were all just going through the motions. In the end, my stepmother decided to leave for good. She said she couldn't handle the constant reminders of my mom and that she needed to find her own happiness. My dad was heartbroken, and I felt like I had failed him again. As we tried to move on, I realized that some wounds never fully heal. My dad and I continued to work on our relationship, but it was a long and difficult process. We both had to learn to let go of the past and find a way to move forward together. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my son's wife the truth about being a housewife and pissing off my husband? I'm a woman in my late 50s, married to my husband in his early 60s. We've been married for 30-odd years. I have fulfilled the role of a traditional wife for much of our marriage, and I left paid work soon after we got married. My husband is very successful in his business, and we live comfortably. All of our children are adults now. My husband built his business from the ground up, and I played a key role in its early success, which helped shape it into what it is today. We were having lunch with our children when my son mentioned that his wife didn't want to be a trad wife and do what I did to raise the kids. She expressed concerns about the vulnerability of that position and not wanting to depend solely on him for money. He wanted me to talk to her and convince her by sharing how it worked out for me. I told him I understood where she was coming from, and being a housewife carries a significant amount of risk and vulnerability, especially if he were to leave her and she has been out of the workforce for a while. He countered that it had worked for his father and me because I trusted my husband to provide for me, so why couldn't his wife do the same? I explained that I have meticulously documented all of my contributions to the family business, which have recently been digitized with the help of my daughter. This ensures that if the worst were to happen, I wouldn't be relying solely on the mercy of a man to support myself. Over the years, I have also made many contingency plans to minimize the risks associated with being a housewife and to compensate for the lack of pension and benefits I would have had if I had not left the workforce. Both my son and husband were angered by this. They both claimed that it showed a lack of trust, with my husband specifically feeling like I've always had one foot out the door in our marriage and that my little escape plan included intentions to take advantage of his business. I explained to him that the fact that he refers to it as his business instead of ours is exactly why I have kept those records and why I won't be advising my daughter-in-law to do something she doesn't want to do. To add, it's late here, so I'm going to respond in the morning. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for your engagement. I have read and responded to as many comments as I am able. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, and 99% of you being really polite. I'm going away for a spa weekend with the women in my family this weekend, so I'm going to use that time to reflect and decide how to proceed. Take care, Sex almost forgot. We have arrived at the spa. Ended up being me and my daughters, including those by marriage, so it's going to be a good weekend to chat freely about this. Thank you for deciding I'm not the jerk. My daughters read the thread and also feel I'm not in the wrong. I'll continue to periodically engage if I see something. But for the most part, I'm going to spend quality time with my girls and relax. Bye for now. So now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, that's legal savviness right there. What do men obtain out of getting their wives to entirely throw their financial security into the wind? Barring separation and divorce, what happens to the wife if the husband dies unexpectedly? Does she throw herself in a fire, end up living in the streets because the husband provided and now there is no provider and she has no savings, no plan? And what is this modern obsession for traditional wives in societies where it takes 2 salaries to care for a family? Son is A for not respecting his fiancé/wife's wishes. What if she wanted him to be a house husband? What gives him the right to demand of her what she won't give? Husband is A for not understanding that protecting yourself from very possible hardships that have very practical ramifications has nothing to do with not trusting him. It has to do with self-preservation. Comment 2, not the idiot, and I hope you talk to your daughter-in-law privately. She is very wise not to put herself at the mercy of your son. Many stay-at-home moms are speaking out about how after decades of trust and unpaid labor and multiple children, their ex-husbands just divorced them. They were ruined financially. It's great to be a stay-at-home mom if both partners want it, but a man should never force it on his future wife. If I were the daughter-in-law, I would run. Their values do not align. He will make her life miserable. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all your comments and support. So after that spa weekend, things took an unexpected turn. When I got back home, my husband was unusually quiet. At first, I thought he was just giving me space after our argument, but it became clear that something was brewing. One evening, he sat me down and told me he had been thinking a lot about what I said regarding my contingency plans and my contributions to the business. He admitted that he felt hurt and betrayed, but he also realized that he had never truly acknowledged my role in the business's success. This conversation opened up a lot of old wounds and hidden feelings. My husband confessed that he had always felt a bit insecure about the business, fearing that it might fail and that he would let the family down. He said that my meticulous documentation of my contributions made him feel like I was preparing for his failure. This was a huge revelation for me because I had always seen him as this confident, unshakable man. It made me realize that his anger was more about his own insecurities than about my actions. Around the same time, my son and his wife had a big fight about the whole trad wife issue. She felt like he was trying to force her into a role she didn't want, and he felt like she was rejecting the family values he grew up with. They decided to take a break and stay with their respective parents for a while. My son came to stay with us, and his wife went to her parents' house. This separation was tough on everyone, but it also gave us a chance to have some deep, honest conversations. One night, while my son and I were having dinner, he broke down and admitted that he felt like he was failing as a husband. He said he had always looked up to his father and wanted to have a marriage like ours, but now he was questioning everything. This was a pivotal moment for me because it made me realize that my son had been idealizing our marriage without understanding the complexities and compromises involved. I told him about the early years of our marriage, the struggles we faced, and how we had to work hard to build trust and mutual respect. This was something I had never shared with him before, and it seemed to give him a new perspective. Meanwhile, my husband and I continued to work through our issues. We decided to go to couples therapy, something we had never done before. In therapy, we both opened up about our fears and insecurities. My husband admitted that he had always felt like he had to be the strong provider, and that acknowledging my contributions made him feel vulnerable. I, on the other hand, realized that my contingency plans were not just about financial security, but also about my need for recognition and validation. During one of our therapy sessions, the therapist suggested that we revisit the early days of our business. We spent a weekend going through old documents, photos, and memories. This exercise was incredibly healing for both of us. It reminded us of how much we had accomplished together and how our partnership had been the foundation of our success. It also made my husband see that my contributions were not just a backup plan, but an integral part of our journey. As for my son and his wife, they eventually reconciled. They decided to go to couples therapy as well, and it helped them understand each other's perspectives better. My daughter-in-law realized that she didn't have to follow the same path as me to have a successful marriage. My son learned that he needed to support her choices and not impose his expectations on her. They are now working on building a partnership based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than trying to replicate someone else's marriage. One interesting development was that my daughter-in-law asked me to help her with some business ideas she had. She wanted to start a small online business and needed some guidance. This was a great opportunity for us to bond and for me to share my knowledge and experience. It also made my son see that there are many ways to contribute to a family, and that his wife could be a successful businesswoman in her own right. Throughout this whole process, I also reconnected with my daughters. They had always seen me as a traditional mom, but now they were seeing a different side of me. We had long conversations about my role in the business, my contingency plans, and my feelings about being a housewife. They were surprised to learn about the challenges I faced and the strategies I used to ensure our family's security. This brought us closer and made them appreciate the complexities of my role. One evening, my youngest daughter shared a story from her childhood that I had almost forgotten. She remembered a time when the business was struggling, and I had to step in and help with the finances. She said that seeing me handle that crisis with strength and determination had always been an inspiration for her. This was a touching moment for me because it showed that my efforts had not gone unnoticed and that I had been a role model for my children in ways I hadn't realized. In the end, this whole experience has been a journey of self-discovery and growth for all of us. It has brought hidden feelings to the surface, forced us to confront our insecurities, and helped us build stronger, more honest relationships. While there are still challenges ahead, I feel more hopeful and connected to my family than ever before. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for leaving home to pursue my dreams after my parents tried to chain me to my disabled sister's needs? My older sister Rita, 20 years old, is disabled. My sister's disability comes with a lot of health issues, and while mentally she's capable, physically she cannot do much and struggled even with regular school. She never graduated high school because she got so sick in senior year that it set her way back and she didn't get the grades to graduate. She was offered the chance to repeat, but she said no because she was still really bad afterward. It's something that causes her a lot of distress, and she still cries because she feels like she failed in the worst way. Nobody can convince her differently. She doesn't work and she doesn't go to school or anything. She's at home and gets taken care of by our parents. I, 17 years old, am still in school, and I'm going into my senior year. There have been a lot of discussions about college or what other avenue I could go down. I was given information on this apprenticeship that could be perfect for me, and my guidance counselor wanted me to give it consideration over the summer because they take high school graduates. It's exciting. Rita was super upset to hear I had so many options, and not for the first time my parents expected me to think of her before making decisions. They suggested I focus on looking at community colleges only or not going to college at all and going into retail or a service industry job. They told me I could afford my own place if I were to do that. I didn't get to go to camp because Rita couldn't, and they didn't want me to have experiences she couldn't. I wasn't allowed to participate in school plays because Rita couldn't participate in hers. My parents would actually stop my teachers from including me. They refused to sign a permission slip that would have allowed me to enter a competition on behalf of my school because Rita would never get to have an experience like that herself, and they didn't feel it was right for me to have it then. The permission slip came in because some travel might be involved if I were to go anywhere. They pulled me out of art classes when I was young because I was doing super well and getting a lot of praise. My parents actually pressured me to ask if I could leave the classes, but they pulled me regardless. Rita would always get upset when I achieved something or got presented with a great opportunity. She'd cry, ask me why I got everything, and she got nothing. I felt bad for her, but also resentful of the fact that she was glad when our parents held me back. This became a fight when the college stuff came up again, and my parents saw me looking up the apprenticeship, and my parents asked me how I could even think about going and how selfish I would be. They said I should aim for something lower for Rita's sake. Rita heard us argue about it, and she said she knows I'm too selfish to give it up for her. I told them I hated them for expecting me to. Rita and my parents said I had no sense of family loyalty at all. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your parents are being completely ridiculous and irrational. It was bad enough they stifled your education and experience as a child. Now they want to pressure you to do so as an adult? They want you to live a lifetime of mediocrity just to appease your sister. What's next? Don't have a wedding and elope because sis will complain that she isn't having one? Don't have kids because it will make sis upset? Tell them that their years of appeasement enabled your sister's insecurity rather than guiding her or getting her help with coping skills. That you are not going to surrender your entire life. You're not the jerk, NTA, and take that apprenticeship. You will live in regret otherwise. Enough is enough. Comment 2. Your family should wish for you to flourish and succeed. Depriving you of any opportunity your sister can't have is abuse. Your parents are harassing you. It's time you discuss their behavior with everyone who can help you. Relatives, teachers, counselors, pastors, etc. Tell them what has happened in the past and the decisions that are being made now. Accept any help you can to get out of your parents' house. Accept help that will enable you to take the opportunities that are best for you. You should have a great life ahead of you. I'm so sorry you'll have to make it happen without the support of your parents. You are absolutely not the jerk, NTA. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So a lot has happened in the past week and it's been a real roller coaster. After the big argument about college and the apprenticeship, things were tense at home. My parents were giving me the silent treatment, and Rita was crying more than usual. I tried to avoid everyone as much as possible, but it was hard. I felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time. I spent most of my time in my room trying to figure out what to do next. One day I got a call from my guidance counselor. She wanted to know if I had made any decisions about the apprenticeship. I told her about the fight with my parents and how they wanted me to stay close to home for Rita's sake. She listened patiently and then told me something that changed everything. She said that the apprenticeship program had a special scholarship for students with disabled family members. It would cover all my expenses, including housing, so I wouldn't have to worry about money or being a burden on my parents. She encouraged me to apply and said she would help me with the application process. I was excited, but also scared. I knew my parents would never agree to it, but I couldn't let this opportunity slip away. I decided to apply in secret. I spent the next few days gathering all the necessary documents and writing my personal statement. I stayed up late every night working on my application while everyone else was asleep. It was exhausting, but I felt like I was finally doing something for myself. Then something unexpected happened. Rita found out about the scholarship. I had left my laptop open, and she saw the email from my guidance counselor. She confronted me about it, and I was terrified. I thought she would tell our parents and ruin everything. But instead, she surprised me. She said she was happy for me and that she wanted me to go for it. She admitted that she had been selfish and that she didn't want to hold me back anymore. She even offered to help me with my application. I was shocked. This was a side of Rita I had never seen before. We spent the next few days working on my application together. It was strange, but also nice. For the first time, I felt like we were on the same team. We talked a lot during those late-night sessions, and I learned things about her that I never knew. She told me about her dreams and how she felt trapped by her disability. She said she was jealous of me, but also proud of me. It was a lot to take in, but it brought us closer. But then, things took a turn for the worse. My parents found out about the scholarship. I don't know how, but they did. They were furious. They accused me of being sneaky and ungrateful. They said I was abandoning the family and that I was no better than a stranger. Rita tried to defend me, but they wouldn't listen. They said she was just as selfish for encouraging me. It was a mess. I had to make a hard choice. I could either stay and try to make things right with my family, or I could leave and pursue my dreams. It was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. I felt like I was being torn in two. I loved my family, but I also wanted a future for myself. I didn't know what to do. In the end, I decided to go for the apprenticeship. I knew it would be tough, but I couldn't let this opportunity slip away. I packed my bags and left in the middle of the night. Rita helped me sneak out, and we said our goodbyes quietly. It was heartbreaking, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Now I'm staying with a friend until the apprenticeship starts. It's been a rough few days, but I'm trying to stay positive. I miss my family, but I know I made the right choice. I'm excited about the future, but also scared. I don't know what will happen next, but I'm ready to face whatever comes my way. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.